Hey, everybody. What's going on? David Young here, founder of Drone Launch Academy, coming at you for a second session of Talking Drones with Dave. As I'm calling it for now, I'm sure I'll change that name later, but I'm trying to go live every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. It's 4:10 right now, started a little late. I was reading up on a few more things before I jumped on here, but wanting to stay consistent. So this is week 2. If we can get through week 4 of me doing this every Thursday, I'll start advertising it a little bit more. But right now, I don't tell anybody about it. I'm just doing it sneakily. So if you get a notification that I'm live and you happen to pop on, great. Last week I did post on Instagram that I was going to go live, but that was like a one story thing, not a huge deal. I did not send out any emails, anything like that. So on week 5, if I can do 4 days in a row, week 5, I'll send out an email and say, hey, everybody, I'm going to go live. We got this show that we've been doing. So if you're here and you're watching this, you are an early adopter. So what this is going to work is I've looked up 5 stories that I think are worth mentioning, kind of 5 drone news updates, drone news stories. We're going to go through that. I'm going to call that 5 in 10. So I'm going to get through all 5 of those news stories in about 10 minutes worth of time. And then I have some other topics we're going to talk about today, things that are going on right now in the drone industry. That would be Blue UAS, what that is, what that means, why it's important. Something else is NDAA compliance. A lot of people have been talking about that lately, seeing what that is. There's been a big push legislatively about getting away from DJI drones, doing only American-made drones, anti-China manufacturing, all that fun stuff. So we can talk some about that. From what I've been able to research, what that might mean for you as a drone operator or a company, and give some thoughts there and talk about that a bit. And then if anybody's on wants to ask questions, we can do that, and then we'll wrap it up. So let's dive in to our 5 in 10, our 5 top drone news stories in 10 minutes or less. All right. First one, Skydio. I saw an article come out as of, I don't know, a few hours ago. Maybe this one's old. Skydio Drones is no longer going to be doing their commercial drones. So we'll put it up here for people to see. Skydio. I mean, sorry, not commercial. Consumer. Skydio, they are getting out of the consumer drone business. They're focusing only on enterprise. I've seen this shift happen with a lot of drone companies, drone software companies. To make money in the commercial space, direct to consumer space, you have to sell a lot of drones because you're going to have a lower price point. That means the margins are lower. So you got to do a lot of volume to make up for that. So DJI, they crush it with the consumer drone market because they sell a ton of them and they're all pretty good. And even though they may make low margins on it, they can sell a lot, make up for that. But you'll see software companies like Drone Deploy, Pix4D, they really don't have many consumer level price options. Even Drone Deploy has moved up to like $500 plus per month, or like $5,000, $20,000 a year for their software applications. And they're like, hey, we really only want enterprise customers, because if you can get an enterprise customer, they're going to buy 10, 20 drones from you, and they typically have bigger budgets. So they're willing to pay, 5 figures per drone. And that is just, if you're going to spend time working on one customer, you might as well get the biggest bang for your buck. So that's some schools of thought. Skydio, they're still offering their enterprise model of their drones. They said they're still going to support all their drones and stuff like that. The one that they're still going to continue to offer is the, Skydio 2 Plus Enterprise Kit. But other than that, they're going to be still using, focusing on the commercial market. I know several energy customers that we've worked with, they use Skydio drones, and Skydio drones are now used for more like bridge inspections. So I think they're trying to focus heavily on the commercial enterprise applications of inspections, AI, that kind of stuff. So that was something that was interesting, especially given the fact that you're hearing all this news about either the US banning DJI imports or DJI drones being used for federal or state projects being banned there. And we'll talk a little bit later about China actually now banning exports of their drones. So there's all this back and forth about, basically people are worried they're not going to be able to use or get DJI drones in the United States. So that would be like, all right, well, now who do we use? We can't use DJI drones, or the imports or exports from China, imports to the US are going to be limited. What are our options, right? And now you have Skydio saying, "Oh, hey, we're actually not going to make consumer drones anymore." So it's a little bit of a concern. What options are out there? At what price points is it going to be cheap enough? That type of stuff. If you're here in the comments, or if you're here watching, throw in the comments, say what's up. Love to hear from you. All right, so that's the first one. Second story we got on the docket today. Something interesting. So out of Australia, I can share my screen here. I was looking at the drone DJ and something else. Out of Australia, they're using drones long-range drones to look for lost people, like a search and rescue thing in Australia. Let's look here. Let me share my screen. So I was looking for what type of drone they were using. They didn't say specifically. I'm like, maybe I can look at this picture and zoom in a little bit. But there's this thing, surf life saving. So I know that, surfing is huge in Australia, and they have different places that kind of try to keep surfers protected. And, there's a lot of places to get lost in the bush. So they actually use these long range drones with thermal cameras to find hikers who were lost. So they were impressed by that. And they were, again, they didn't call out any specific drone manufacturer. I was curious as to what they were using, but it's nice to see applications of drones being used more and more. Again, this is just kind of some vague stuff that I found in here. But it's cool to have their own section, Australian Uncrewed Aerial Vehicle Service, which is the drone department of this surf life savings section over here. So that's pretty cool. See how they're using that. More and more people using drones beyond visual line of sight. It's pretty cool. But that's really, it wasn't a ton, but I thought an interesting way of interesting applications of drones being used in other areas. All right. That was a short one. Story number 3. So you might have seen that New York City recently relaxed drone restrictions. It used to be that you couldn't fly anywhere. NYPD, let's see. You used to not be able to fly anywhere in New York for drones. They were real stringent on it. It's basically a drone ban for the whole city. And now they have announced, the mayor is all right, we're going to ease up on this, and we're going to allow drones to fly, and we want to attract talent and companies to New York City to be this drone hub. You can look up some stuff on that. That was maybe a few weeks ago. So they're like, hey, we want to push drones, want to be more active in getting drone technology and drone companies to come here. So we maybe can cover that at another time. But now you can operate drones in New York City for inspections and some other things. I'm sure you have to have permits and go through some proper procedures. But the NYPD ordered some Brink lemur drones. And if you are not familiar with that, I saw Brink at a drone conference. They make drones specifically for first responders. It's almost like a tactical drone. They call it the Lemur 2. And it's supposed to be able to, push doors open. Essentially, let's say if there's a hostage situation or there's an active shooter or something like that, a bomb threat. Instead of sending in a person, they used to have those little bomb robots that would go in. But now they can clear a house with a drone, which is nice. You might know, I used to work for the FBI. I was doing forensic accounting stuff, but I worked on teams with all agents, and I used to work with one of the SWAT guys. He was the SWAT team sniper for DC. So I heard lots of stories of their training and scenarios they run through and different missions that they were working on. And there was one incident at the FBI where a guy got shot by friendly fire. They were clearing a house, and one team came around this way and one team came around this way, and they saw movement. They said stop. The guy didn't stop because it was his own teammate. Shot, hit the guy actually underneath the bulletproof vest. Dude lived, but really bad scenario. That was several years ago, and that was a huge deal, and they did all this training to prevent that. Another time, there's a guy, I think they named a field office out of this guy in Pittsburgh or somewhere in Pennsylvania. He was helping serve a search warrant. They entered the house, went in the door. As soon as they got through the door, boom, they started shooting at him. Again, missed his vest by a little bit, and that guy ended up passing away, unfortunately. So it can be super dangerous clearing a house if you are law enforcement, or clearing a building, whatever. As soon as you open that door, you don't know who's going to be behind it, what's there. Now a lot of places are legislations you used to be able to do a no-knock entry. So you just bust the door open and go in if it was really dangerous, or there was risk of people destroying evidence. Now a lot of places are making you knock first. You have to say boom, boom, boom. Hey, police, please let us in. Get ready for us to enter. And then you walk in, and then people are going to be there, start shooting at you if they're dangerous people. So that's kind of the situation a lot of these guys and gals walk into. So this drone is pretty nice because you can send it through a window. It has a little glass breaker thing on it too, which is really interesting. I've heard mixed thoughts on that from people on LinkedIn. I've never used this UAS solution, but apparently it's got a glass breaker thing. It can push open small doors. But let's say you push a door open, you don't want to go send live bodies in there. This drone will go through, and actually it's got LiDAR that comes out the front of it, lasers. And as it's moving through the house, it laser scans the house or I say house, but whatever property, indoor environment you're in. And it can map out that indoor environment and start creating a real-time map for the first responders, police, whatever, to see the situation and have a real-time map of what's going on. So that's pretty interesting. Apparently NYPD, they didn't buy a ton of them, but they bought like 12 of them. I think 12 or 15 was like an $80,000 contract from what I've seen. So not huge, but still, a cool step in the right direction. Here, let me share my screen with you. I'll show you Brink real quick so you can see what this looks like. So this Lemur 2, I'm not sure if you guys can see this. I think you can now. Yeah, Lemur 2. Is it going to let me? Oh, hey. So this says NDAA compliant. We're going to talk about that later on in this stream, what that means and why that might be important for some people. This is an interesting website. Barricades, search and rescue. Yeah, so it can operate without GPS because it's got these LiDAR sensors as you go through. See, onboard LiDAR makes real-time floor plans. I think that's pretty sweet. If you don't know what LiDAR is, it's basically, imagine shooting out a ton of different lasers at the same time, and it times how long it takes that laser to go out and come back, and that measures the distance. And then from that, it can do some calibration and some calculations to figure out how far away certain things are. And it's shooting out tons of lasers, so it can kind of map out the surroundings around you. As you can see here, you can go through different places, autonomous streams. Yeah, so it's a pretty cool little product. Again, I haven't used it, but I've seen them at some events. Seems interesting. I know there are a few products like this on the market, but it'd be interesting to see what the NYPD does with it. Yeah, see the glass breaker thing? I'm not sure how effective that is. It's like shatters the glass. So I don't know. I saw somebody on LinkedIn say, that sounds cool, but it's actually kind of useless in real life. But I could see some use for it. Oh yeah, you can drop things 1 pound capacity. So cool. All right. So that was that. Next story on the list. Yeah, so Parrot, they're a drone company. I thought they were French, but they used to. I thought they were used to be a little more popular than they are, but they're still around. They have moved their production out of China, or more of their production out of China, and are moving it more to South Korea. So that seems like a lot of people are trying to disassociate with China in manufacturing and all this stuff. I also didn't know this before preparing for this, but if you're familiar with the software Pix4D, Parrot also owns a majority stake in Pix4D. So they had cut their workforce on Pix4D a bit, and they were doing some reorganization stuff. Like it looks like overall the company had 533 employees, and at the end of June, and now it plans to reduce its workforce by another 20% before 2023 ends. So that's like layoffs of 100 people. So that's kind of a bummer. Pix4D is great software. Sounds like they're still sticking around and plan to support it and continue forward with it. But they're gonna, they got a major investment. Now they just need to support their solutions and reduce the sales of legacy products, is what it says. So Parrot, it used to own 20% and it upped its stake to 57%. Yeah. In 2014. So I didn't know that Parrot owned them. So that was interesting. And now they're moving their drone operations, their manufacturing to South Korea, again, getting away from it. So there's a whole earnings report from Parrot that you can read if you want to really dive deep into it. But that's the note there. All right. And last but not least, you might have heard a new drone came out, the DJI Mini 3 drone. I'm sorry, the Air 3. The Mini 3's been out for a little while. The Air 3 drone has been released. Let's take a quick look at that, and then I'm going to give you a resource. Our Drone Launch Academy video instructor, cinematography instructor, Alex Harris, did a full review on that. They actually sent him an Air 3 early. So here's the Air 3. What's the biggest deal about the Air 3, or a few big deals, is the flight time. 46 minutes of flight time is really long. That's longer than most other drones. So they're definitely getting better with the battery capacity and efficiency. And then one of the biggest things was these 2 lenses now. They're going crazy with the lenses, putting more and more lenses and stuff. But it's nice because you can get a wide angle shot. This is nice if you're doing cinematography stuff, right? Because it's got a cropped in shot and a wide angle shot. So each of they say 48 megapixels, but it's not even a full sensor, not like a full, like if you look here, yeah, so the wide angle camera, 24 millimeter equivalent, 70 millimeter equivalent. Yeah, it's a 1 and 1.3 inch CMOS sensor. So that's not a full frame sensor. It's a smaller one, what you might see in like a lower end DSLR camera. It can still get really good pictures, but I wonder if by 48 megapixels, sometimes what they had done in the past is it was 4 12 megapixel pictures put together. So imagine if you have an area like this, they would take one picture, 1 photo, 2 photo, 3 photo, 4 photo. It almost like take 4 different pictures and then kind of put them together and say, oh, it's a 48 megapixel picture. But that's not like true what you would think of when you think of, oh, this is a really high resolution quality image. For some of these full frame cameras, which means the sensor, the part that captures light, is just bigger and it can capture more light data, because that's all pictures are, is light and what's reflecting. So if the sensor is bigger, it can capture more detail. And so these bigger sensors would capture high resolution images. So these are smaller sensors. So I'm imagining that's what they're doing when they're saying 48 megapixels. So when you think about true quality, if you're thinking about using this for something like mapping and modeling, a lot of times you're going to look at what's the resolution, what are the megapixels of the image, like what kind of data am I getting? Because when you're using it for mapping and you're taking a lot of pictures facing down and you stitch those together, what you want is, as that drone's flying at 400 feet or wherever it is, and now you want to look and see, one of the applications I saw recently was someone was looking to see cracks in a runway. And they're like, all right, I'm flying above the runway. The runways are really long. It says a mile or 2 long. And now they want to get down and they want to see the nitty gritty of those cracks and really measure the distance from one edge of the crack to the other edge. Unless you have a really high resolution camera, you're not gonna be able to see it. It's gonna be just kind of like blurry pixels, right? So when you get really zoom in really far, or let's say you're trying to find the very center of a ground control point, or you're trying to measure something and you want to be very accurate, if you don't have really high resolution imagery, you're going to zoom in. It's just going to look super blurry and the pixels are not going to show you what you want. So that's why you are concerned about that type of thing in the mapping, photogrammetry, inspection world. So you might be thinking, oh, this is a good 48 megapixel camera. This will be the best mapping drone of all time. I think that remains to be seen. And a lot of times they don't even make these, they don't open the SDK on these a lot of times, some of these air drones. So you can't like upload waypoints to them, make some of the flight automation tools a little bit trickier. So these might not always be the best solutions for that. But as far as cinematography goes, it is, from what I've heard, a pretty fantastic drone. If you look at that, that looks pretty sweet, right? So there's like the wide angle shot, and then here's the same thing with the cropped in shot. Now you might be wondering, why do I need a wide angle? Why do I need a cropped in shot? I've seen some things on Instagram where people will give this breakdown for you. But if you're looking far back, right, and you're doing this kind of fly around thing, if you're doing an orbit and you're going to wide angle, you can kind of see everything, and everything moves a little bit more slowly. This is a really fast turn, so it looks like the background moves more quickly. But if you're really cropped in and you're doing an orbit, it looks like the background is moving really fast because you're really focused in on it. I actually saw a drone shot last night. I was watching a Star Wars movie with my kid and her kids, and it's one of like Luke Skywalker. It's one of like the, I don't know, 8th movie or something. It's like Luke Skywalker and that Rey chick, she's like finally meeting him on this island, and they're panning around. I guess maybe it was a helicopter shot, but you could see they're really zoomed in with like a tight focal length, like a long focal length, because as they're flying around, you see them just in the frame, but the background, like the ocean, is like flying by, which means they're like zoomed in really closely. Because if you look at this, if you look out in the background, you can see this creek the whole way across. But if you look down here, look at the background, how quickly it's moving. You see like that lake out there, but it disappears quickly. It kind of gives you a more, just a different feel for the type of shot you're getting. So here's a wide angle. See if it'll show you the cropped in angle. Yeah, see here where you're like, it really focuses you intently on the cropped in item. See, this kind of gives you an establishing shot of where you are, the wide angle stuff. Then when you zoom in, it just makes you really focused on that single point of interest. So just the two things you might use those cameras for. It just gives you a lot more cinematic feel and options for your images. A lot of time you want to get the same shot wide, and then you go and you get the same shot tight, and you can start with the wide to do what they call establishing shot, and you can bring it in close to kind of let people see the details of what it is you're doing. But that flight time is pretty sick in general. Oh yeah, and then they have really nice battery chargers here. Comes with, charge them all up. Good obstacle avoidance, omnidirectional. I've seen people do some tests with this. It's nice for not crashing. It is not very smooth when you do it for cinematography purposes. Like if you're flying this and all of a sudden you're like encountering some trees, it's kind of choppy in the way it moves around. It's not going to give you this like super smooth movements around obstacles. So this is nice, the advanced return to home to avoid obstacles, because I've had this issue where something returned to home and it went and it tried to fly in a straight line to me and it flew into a bunch of trees. So that is actually a pretty nice feature right there. So if you want to look into this more, Alex Harris, he's our aerial video A to Z instructor. He's got this YouTube channel called Quick Ass Tutorials. He's had this thing forever. It's awesome. But they sent him a Mavic Air 3 early. He did this nice 17-minute review on it. It's like 70,000 views, got a bunch of comments. So it's a popular video. He just posted it, 2 weeks ago, right before it came out. So go check this out. I'll try to link this up here if you want to go. He'll dive deep into comparing it to like the Air 2S, looking at both of those, the photos, the quality, some of the features, photography, low light, vertical filming. He's really good about reviewing this stuff. So go check that out. Highly recommend. All right. That was the end of our news update there. Now, I want to talk about some other stuff that has been a hot topic in the drone industry lately. And you see a lot of people talking about NDAA compliant drones. What is that? Especially at the enterprise level, people are like, oh, is this drone NDAA compliant? I need all that stuff. And you're like, what is NDAA compliant? And what is Blue UAS? You might not know about what's going on here. So I'm going to give you a quick breakdown on what it is, what you might need to know about it, just make you more knowledgeable about the industry. So NDAA, when you hear that, it's for National Defense Authorization Act. And in that act, they specified that, hey, if you're going to be doing things for the government, especially for the Department of Defense, these are the policies for the Department of Defense and for contractors doing work for the Department of Defense. You're not allowed to use certain components from banned countries, but they don't say banned. They call it a covered country. Maybe that's a little more politically correct way to say it, right? So it's really about the supply chain, where the parts are from and where it's manufactured. Now, it's not all the parts, but it's specific parts. So let's get into some specifics here, all right? So the parts that cannot be from the foreign country are flight controllers, radios, data transmission devices, cameras, gimbals, ground control systems, or operating software manufactured in a covered foreign country or by a company based in a covered foreign country. Now, originally, the covered country was just China, but they expanded that to include, in 2022, they expanded it because that was 2020 is where it originally came from. And then in 2022, Congress expanded it to include Russia, Iran, and North Korea. So China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, if they are manufacturing any of those components I just listed off, they would not be NDAA compliant. So when you saw Brink, when we were on their website, their drone, it said NDAA compliant, which means, hey, this can be used by the military if they wanted to. And a lot of, now you'll see some other regulations on the local level say, hey, we're going to have our stuff be NDAA compliant too. So that's what you need to know. That's what NDAA compliance means. Let's see. There was another thing. It's not a rule that the drone must be 100% free of all parts from that country. Only those listed in number 2. Yeah. So it could have, let's say you manufacture a propeller, right, in that country, or maybe they make the airframe on the outside or something like that, right? But it's generally composed of the electronics and the kind of smart features of that, because they don't want basically other foreign countries building in software to spy on us and send that data back. That's kind of like the fear from everyone, right? What's up, Kevin? How you doing, man? Good to see you. All right, so Blue UAS, there's no certifying body that says you are NDAA compliant, you are not NDAA compliant, right? There's just drone companies say this about themselves to market themselves to people. But there is a section of the DoD Defense Innovation Unit that is a program, and they're the ones who do something called Blue UAS. So they will actually certify whether a drone is NDAA compliant in their eyes, and they'll put them on the Blue UAS list. So if you heard of a Blue UAS program, those are drones that are NDAA compliant, and those are on the blue list. So you'll see people, if they want to do business, they will try to get on the blue list for drones, right? So the American-made drones, a lot of people are pushing for more American-made drones, but the problem comes when we're all the ban of DJI drones, or I'll talk about that in a minute. But some DJI drones are either being banned from export, and then there's talks about banning the import of DJI drones. And there's been some controversy because people have, I would say wisely, brought up the fact that we don't ban cell phones from some of these countries. Like China manufactures a lot of our cell phones, other computer parts, and we don't say, hey, nobody in the public domain can have these cell phones. I can understand maybe for military operations or sensitive government operations not having that, right? That'd be a security risk. But to ban them from being imported altogether feels a little heavy-handed and inconsistent with some of the other policies that have been in place for electronics, right? What if we said no TVs can be manufactured in China, or no, chips or whatever? It would make things pretty tough in like a global economy that we have. So the problem is that there's not really a lot of alternatives too, because Autel, they do some of their, even though they have some U.S. distribution, sometimes people think of them as like a U.S. company, and they're really not. A lot of them are also, I believe, manufactured in China. Could be wrong on that one. It just creates a bit of a problem and kind of creates a gap, right? There's not really a U.S.-based low-priced option in the consumer space that's, I would say, of the quality of the features and all that stuff. There's no like Apple, even though Apple manufactured a lot of stuff overseas, right? Apple and Samsung, right? They're usually the two competitors. Samsung is not a Chinese All right, well, that was fun. My internet just completely shut off for a moment, but we're back. I don't know if this is going to pick up where where it left off, but feel free to chime into the comments if you can still see me. But we'll wrap up here in a minute. I was just last time I talked, and when it cut out, I was just saying that it's a bit of issue because if we're going to ban DJI drones from coming into the U.S., there's not really good competition inside of the U.S. on consumer level drones like there is for devices, other electronics that we have, vehicles, all these other places where competition will make sure that innovation continues to happen and prices stay affordable. You see these other companies, they come in, they try to do some type of UAS solution, drone solution. They realize maybe it's expensive to get these parts, to put teams together who can create these products. And then they end up not really focusing on the consumer level. They just all want to go enterprise because they're like, hey, we think this is where the money is. So they all scramble and compete for these enterprise deals and government contracts and large customers, and nobody's really serving that consumer market. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. All right, there's more here on the Blue UAS list. So some things that are on there. There's SenseFly, Free Fly Systems, Wingtra is on there. I believe they're a Swiss company. Blue Halo, Inspired Flight, Harris Aerial, Skydio is on the Blue UAS. They're a US-based company. So some there, right? That's on the list. All right, so let's talk a little about the export ban from China. So you have talks of the import ban in the US saying, hey, we're not going to take your drones, China, and then China basically said before that the US could do that, China said, hey, you know what, actually, we're not going to export any of our drones to you or any of those products. We're going to not let our companies send those products out, which is one of the bummers of being a China-based company. You can have a private company in China, but it appears that the government owns you and controls you because they can say, oh, by the way, you're not going to ship drones or these electronics to your largest customers anymore in consumer base. Like, oh, crap. So sometimes people think, oh, crap, China's got the export ban. I'm not going to be able to get my drones, blah, blah, blah. China says, hey, we're doing this because we want to be neutral. We don't want Russia and the Ukraine using these drones as weapons. So we're going to try to ban exports of any of these drones that could be used for military applications. So let me see if I can find the specific thing. It said, okay, the restriction includes equipment of drones that weigh 4 kilograms without cargo or accessories. So for those of us in the US, 4 kilograms, it's like 8.8. Yeah, 8.8 pounds. So that's a fairly, heavy drone. So it has to weigh at least 4 kilograms. That would make it restricted. As well as craft that carry a kit capable of emitting projectiles or certain types of cameras or laser range finders, or that can operate beyond line of sight. That's kind of like a broad thing there because most of their DJI drones can operate beyond line of sight. So they say they're trying not to ban civilian or commercial use drones, but only ones that are going to be used for military. So the main one that would actually include would be thermal drones. So basically, if you want a DJI, something like the DJI Mavic 3 thermal or the M30T, some of those may not be available. This kind of export ban is supposed to kick in September 1st. So we'll see what happens. That's in about 20 days from now. But otherwise, most of the other, let's say the Air 3 that just came out and some of those should be fine, according to what I'm seeing. So those should be able to still be exported. Now the question is, will the U.S. allow those to be imported and sold and all that? So hopefully it will be. But it's just this funny game of back and forth. We're going to ban your drones. No, we're not going to send them to you and all this stuff. It's like it only happens with the drone industry. It's not happening with any of the other electronics that exist in the world. So, all right, that's the main thing you should know. We'll see how that plays out. We can report back on it. But that's what NDAA. So if you hear NDAA compliant, National Defense Authorization Act, they're saying, hey, does it have those components that we talked about that are not allowed to be imported from a covered country, which is China, Iran, Russia, and North Korea. Remember those flight controllers, radios, data transmission, cameras, gimbals, ground control systems, or operating software. So anything software electronic related in the drone basically has to be made outside of those countries. So a lot of stuff happening in Switzerland. They make a lot of cool drone stuff. So I see a lot of Switzerland, France, some technology coming out of there. In the United States is where the kind of cover or the blue UAS drones are coming from. So that's what we got on the list for today. I started my Embry Riddle class on Monday. Actually, right after this, I'm about to try to do some homework. Interesting so far. All we had to do was submit a video and introduce ourselves to everybody else in the class. Pretty interesting so far. There's other good classmates, some people that work at the FAA, some people that work in cybersecurity, some people that work for defense contractors, some people that work for manufacturers. So it's an interesting group. It's good to network with everybody. The first week was like, hey, we're just going to look at different crewed or manned processes, things that you used to have to do with a physical person, and how drones are replacing that to where now you're going to do it with, and they're calling it uncrewed, unmanned, whatever system. So they're looking at more than just the aerial stuff. So they look at space, aerial, ground robotics, and underwater. So there's a lot of autonomous submarines that go and explore for wreckage, black boxes, that kind of stuff, which is interesting. And then all the drone applications that that we know about, climbing towers, inspecting assets, agricultural, spraying. There's a lot of them. So we have to, in the next, I guess my thing that I have to submit by the end of the day today is doing a breakdown of some use cases that drones have now replaced, where we used to send a physical person. But for this class, we have to do some type of paper going, all right, what is a current process that is a manned process, and how do we propose to make it unmanned? What systems would be required? What kind of technology would need to be required? How will we know the solution would work? How do we propose it? All that stuff. So we're going to be put into group assignments for an online class. I'm curious to see how that's going to go. I think it should be fine, but just coordinating is always kind of a pain in the butt because most people in there have full-time jobs. So we'll see, but I think it'll be good. I think it's going to be good for me as I'm taking these classes, because I am usually only in this kind of commercial world, where this is going to push me even into more like government and large platform drones, having to study about that, having to study research that's happening. Like you're researching actual scholarly articles and academic research that has been done on drones and drone technology and usefulness and sensors capabilities. So I'm going to learn how to utilize some of those more scholarly resources and official publications to dig for more detailed data. And then on top of that, learning more about how government RFPs work and that whole world of, DOD contracting, some of the cool tech that's going on there. So I'll report back, but that was week 1. There are 8 or 9 weeks in this course. So keep you posted, but so far so good. Yeah. All right. If anybody else has anything, hopefully I'll see some of you at Drone Launch Live 2023. That is on September 22nd and 23rd. Come to Lakeland, where I am right here. Well, not here. This is my office, but in our HQ co-working space, we've got a big room that holds 200 people. We're going to fly drones together. We're going to have 3 tracks: FPV, mapping and 3D modeling, and photography and cinematography. And in the morning, we're going to go out. We're going to do flight. If you're doing mapping and 3D modeling with me, and route, we're going to do flight planning, data acquisition of like a highway overpass. And in the afternoon, we're going to do all the processing and show you all these different software options you can use, and we'll process it together. If you're doing FPV stuff in the morning, Dusty, our community manager, he's like an FPV guy. He's going to take you through first-person view drone simulators. You guys are going to work on soldering, actually like putting together the wires and stuff for an FPV drone. And then afternoon, you're going to go out and you're actually going to go fly FPV around. So if you've never done that before, that could be pretty cool. Or if you have done it and you want to just get cool shots and flights with everybody, you can do that. And then the third group is going to be the mapping or the photography and cinematography. So you're going to go out with Kevin, who was on here earlier, with Kevin Olson and potentially some others, and some other drone launch instructors. We're going to see who's coming or who's able to come. And Kevin's going to show you like what camera settings he uses, how he gets certain photos, what kind of videos he gets, how he does his movements. And then afternoon, you guys are going to edit. Then from like 3 to 5 on Saturday, we're going to have some speakers. So we're going to have like 4 speakers. I think Jeff Carrillo is going to talk. He does thermography and moisture kind of inspections and analysis. So he's going to come talk about some projects that he's been doing, moisture mapping and using drones for moisture mapping. Root Patel is going to talk about a project that he did. I think he's going to talk about a City of Lakeland project he did. He mapped out like tons of square miles for a city so that they could do some of their urban planning, smart planning. So he's going to talk about that project. It was like a nice big 5-figure project for them. And then we'll probably have a panel, and we're working on 1 or 2 more speakers to fill some slots there. So we'll let you know when that's finalized. But Friday night and Saturday night, we're going to all have dinner together, hang out, have drinks, just chill. It'll be a fun time. So if you want to do that, you can go to Drone Launch Connect. It's free for Drone Launch Connect members, annual members, or if you've been a member for 12 months on Drone Launch Connect, you're welcome to come as well. Or you can just buy a ticket if you don't want to be a Drone Launch Connect member. I can post a link to that, or just email me, david@dronelaunchacademy.com, and I can get you a link for that too. But looking forward to seeing a lot of you there. And till then, I'll see you next Thursday on Drones with Dave, session 3, hopefully. So adios. Peace out.